All right, welcome everyone to our next session, the move to mobile. All you need is in the palm of your hand. Couldn't ask to have a better intro than Dave Grohl, so didn't know that's who we were going to follow, but hopefully everybody enjoyed listening to him and his perspective. Really excited that he will open Madison Square Garden back up. I don't know if Michelle is on, but get ready because I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of inquiries from your friends from EAMC. So welcome everyone. We're going to have a good conversation. Thanks to our friends from Ticketmaster who are the sponsor of this session. I want to welcome our different speakers. So from Ticketmaster is Angela Miles-Powell. Angela, just tell us quickly your title and your role at Ticketmaster.
Yeah, Regional Vice President. I work in the venue promoter side of the business, so more on the concert side. I've been with Ticketmaster over 30 years, just happened recently. So really excited about participating.
Excellent. We're looking forward to your expertise in this area, and thanks to Ticketmaster for being the sponsor of the session. And then Kylie Hunsaker is with Vivint Arena. Kylie, tell us your title and your role there.
I'm event marketing manager here at Vivint Arena, and I'm coming up on 5 years at the arena. So I've been here through a renovation and now moving into mobile, sort of a new world. So excited to be here too.
Yeah, great. And you don't have anything really going on tonight in your venue?
No, I mean, round 2 starts tonight, but I'll be at home with my 7-month-old. So I'm have my other full-time job tonight.
That's your real job. I love it. I love it. And then Stephen Kargol's here with the Phoenix Suns. Stephen, tell us your title and your role there.
Yeah, Stephen Kargol with Phoenix Suns Arena, the Senior Arena Marketing Manager. Roles primarily working with the concerts and events that come through the building, working with all the promoters, but also been helping out on the Phoenix Suns side with the marketing world and some of the game presentation booking elements as well.
I think right now you're kind of a one-man show out there, if I'm not mistaken. So I know you had a big win last night, and it's helpful we're doing that this week because in 2 weeks, you, Kylie and Stephen, you might be going head-to-head, correct? In potential round 3. So
yeah, let's hope. Go Jazz.
Little kumbaya moment before we get into that. So just want to jump in. You've all probably read the overview of the session. It's pretty much as we move to reopening, more and more everything's going to be mobile or digital, whatever we want to call that, specifically in the ticketing area, a lot of education that will need to be done. And I'm start with you, Stephen and Kylie, of how are you making the transition to mobile? You're both in the middle of NBA playoffs. Talk about that group of people, how the transition to mobile has come about for your arenas.
Okay. Yeah, well, from the Phoenix perspective, ticketing on the NBA side has moved to mobile already. Even pre-pandemic for us, so we were able to get the jump start at least on the team side. Now for the concert side, the goal was to reopen our building after renovation with mobile ticketing for all the concerts and events. So we're actually making that transition come this August on the concert side. But we'll be taking all of the learnings that we've had from the NBA side and applying those to the concert side.
And Kylie, how about you?
Yeah, so we are just heading into 100% mobile arena. We did not do that before. So there were the option of mobile tickets, obviously, but a lot of it was printed. So we're just heading in the direction of treating every ticket holder as the first time to the arena and messaging them as much as we can. We had a little headache moving into that direction with the beginning of the Jazz season back in December. But then as the season ticket holders have been here, they've got more used to it. So we're realizing that we have an easy job now with people being understanding. And as we start welcoming concerts back into the arena, we're going to have to ramp up our messaging and hit everyone again. So.
And both of you tell us a little more about what are some of the things that you've learned from your team side that you're going to need to utilize as we bring concerts back in a mobile environment.
Yeah, I can take this one. So we just had some trial and error with welcoming people in and trying to figure out how to access tickets. And obviously we have it all written out on our website, step by step. We were hoping that fans were going to that page before they entered the arena, but they're clearly not. So just been teaching our staff as much as we can and having ticket resolution windows in the box office where we used to have will call, we now do full ticket resolution. We're able to send tickets to fans via text message the night of the show or the night of the game if they don't have them already accessed on their phone, which has helped. So it just took a lot of trial and error to get to this point. But now that we have done it a few times, it's the employees who are our biggest strength in helping people access new mobile tickets.
And I'll say from our perspective, when we were pushing this on the team side, I mean, we were going out with the messaging like your phone is your ticket, and just kept hammering away at that element. No more PDFs. Have your phone ready and willing to go. And we had definitely had the step-by-step process on the site as well. Again, when you look at some of the web traffic, not everyone goes there, not everyone reads the the emails that we send out. But one of the learnings that we've taken away, and I've talked to Kylie about this a little bit, is we've all like made the videos, right? We're trying to educate people on the new process in the building. But some of the things that we've noticed is when you look at the actual view time of the videos, might be like 3, 5, 7 seconds. So some people may not actually watch the entire video. So it's starting to move more towards just like the single graphics, with like the quick bullet points on everything you need to know. So that was one learning, at least we've taken away.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing that you touched on, Kylie, is we have a whole step-by-step on our website as well. And people it's too much work for them. And we're also relying on our frontline staff, our guest experience team, everybody that might come in contact with a guest, that they know that they can help them. I know as we first moved into digital, we had a lot of our guest experience from the team, our season ticket service team, at all the gates, and they're still there for all the games. So if there's an issue, they quickly can go to someone they know, someone who handles their account and can help them with a quick ticket resolution to try to get them in the game as quickly as possible. So I know that was something that was really helpful in the transition from the team side, was to have those service team members there. Angela, how about from the Ticketmaster perspective? How do you support the efforts of the arenas and the venues? We have all sorts of venues joining us today to help further the messaging and help educate fans.
Yeah, and I think there's really two good pieces of information two pieces of good news as we talk about digital ticketing. One is we had already started, and you guys, Kylie, kind of touched that. We had already started down the path of digital ticketing, and COVID simply accelerated that adoption, right? For making fans and staff feel safe at the venue with contactless options. And second, fans are expecting live entertainment to look a little different. We see that now with restaurants where they're scanning QR codes for the menu, and you're using an app to pay for your meal. So we know that that's an expectation for fans. And speaking of expectations, I think that's an important part of this. You guys touched on it a little bit, is create that plan, and create the plan with all of those staff members at your venue, at all departments. Anybody that touches a fan is a critical part of the process and education for the fan. Box office has historically been, you print a hard ticket, you come there, you do resolution. We're seeing resolution go to the gates, right? So having a very easy way to, if a fan's having a problem right there, to go ahead and send them their ticket right away, and only send them to the box office if they want to purchase. And even then, at the purchase at the box office, you are texting or emailing the ticket to that fan. And I think really understanding that customer service starts when the event goes on sale. So making sure the message out of the gate is correct and accurate in what the fan is expecting then. And that cadence of communication is important, right? As you're leading up to the event. Are things changing? Are rules changing around masks? Are there going to be different gates open? All of these things are very important. Fans want to understand what to expect, and your staff does as well. So the communication plan is very clear from the beginning, and you can pivot as things are changing in the marketplace. So creating digital toolkits for us to download. You talked a little about videos and emails. Agreed, not everybody reads every piece of information, but some do. And the fans that say, oh, I remember that in the email that said to download this, at least it has some kind of resonance to them, to when they're talking to one of your staff at the venue, that they can go back and actually say, oh yeah, now I can download that ticket. So each very critical part is that planning process, and that you incorporate all facets of your business in that.
Yeah, very much so. And one thing you touched on that I think for our audience to be thinking about is, as you move to mobile, is the box office, and do you do in-person sales? And then how do those people get their tickets? So Kylie and Stephen, I think you do still print hard tickets out at your box office. Is that accurate, or no? You're fully digital?
We're fully digital now. We just send via email and then text message the couple of days before the event.
Okay.
We're pretty close there. We still have a couple events that were rescheduled where we have hard copy tickets. I believe the Eagles and Andre Rieu. But the move is going pure mobile on, let's say 95% of the time. There might be like a small portion where we will allow hard copy tickets for like partnerships, any other exclusivities, but for the most part, mobile.
Yeah, we're the same at the Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul. We just ripped that Band-Aid, and we're moving as much as we can. And some events it's been a challenge, but we're getting there. One of the questions before I have a follow-up for you, Angela, is Lou asked, are we using TM1 to do your e-tickets sent on people's phones, or are you selling all your tickets through, I think this means Arctics?
You can do both. That's, and we talked about that. And Kelly, you talked a little bit about each client and each venue that's part of this organization is different, right? So everybody has a different kind of platform or different way to connect. So there's opportunities on each of the platforms to digitally deliver the ticket, whether that is via text or via email. And I think, Kelly, you mentioned that you guys actually have a policy of you email it prior, right? If it's any days prior to the event, but on the event day you text, right? So again, it's about that plan and understanding. And again, post-event surveys, and I think Kelly, you mentioned a little bit about surveying with fans. I think that's a critical part too. And because you've allowed at the box office to capture that data, like an email address, that you are now able to actually go back out and survey those fans and ask them how their experience was, whether it's the ticket purchase experience at the box office, online, or gate entry, right? Parking, all of those things that we have touched with digital ticketing, you're able to kind of go back and ask. And I think another important process is postmortems with your staff. How did it go? What was were fans receptive in their case of Lou asking about, were they receptive in getting a text message from us? Or did they really push to get a hard ticket printed? I think that those information that you get back from your staff is vital to understanding, is maybe it's a messaging that, hey, we need to explain to the fan that, hey, no longer you have to keep up with a physical ticket, you'll have it in your email and you can look at it later, and you can actually forward those out to your fans, to your people that are in your party. So again, I think it is a learning process for the fan. I think it's a learning process for the staff. And I think that it's something that we have to evolve and understand and be able to pivot based on what that fan experience is.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think for our building, we use both Arctics for some tickets, and then Ticketmaster, TM1, whatever, classic, whatever we want to call it, for other tickets. And I know that Stephen and Kylie, you guys have the same challenge we do. So our season ticket holders for the Minnesota Wild and anyone who bought like through those offices access their digital tickets through the NHL app under the Minnesota Wild. But if you're coming to an event that you bought on traditional Ticketmaster, if you will, that's through the Ticketmaster app. So I know that's another thing for everybody to be aware of, is how do you communicate to two different audiences. So I don't know if Stephen or Kylie, if you've been thinking about that. I know you're doing it now with your season ticket holders, but you'll have to move into a different messaging for concert goers. What's your plan around that?
So our app we have is Vivint Arena plus Utah Jazz, or I guess Utah Jazz plus Vivint Arena. So a lot of times, I think, just being completely honest, a concert goer sees Utah Jazz and thinks, why would I download an app for the Jazz? I'm not coming to a Jazz game. I'm just coming to an arena. But we've done as much as we can inside our app to make it arena friendly. So when you open it, especially on the night of an event, it doesn't have much information about the team. It's mostly, here's what you're getting inside the arena, here's mobile ordering, all the things we're going to talk about. And then the ticket side of our app connects to both your Arctics account through Utah Jazz and your Ticketmaster account. So when you open tickets inside our app, just the way it's set up, you can see both of those in one folder, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
nice.
think that our communication too out to the fan, you know, our post-purchase emails really have some really great, it's not a lengthy email, but it's got links in there to how to manage your tickets, how to transfer your tickets. The FAQs on the website are really good. Clients I know create their own FAQs, but you can link over to the Ticketmaster FAQs to give you a lot of really good information. And then just having the education tools within the My account. So when I log into My account, whether I'm on my mobile device or whether I'm on my desktop, it gives me information about how I can manage my tickets and how I can view my tickets. But I think it's important that we are creating that we're using the same terminology and we're using kind of the same, you know, icons so that fans get more comfortable with the process.
I think too, one thing that we've learned is we've been, you know, trying to push to mobile. Ticketing side, we did it automatically. We'll talk about concessions in a few minutes. One of the maybe silver linings of a worldwide pandemic is people have learned how to do a lot of things online, right? Like if you want to order a Chipotle, they don't even let you in some instances. You need to do it online. So, or on a mobile app. And I feel like that's really helped us. I know on the concession side, we've probably bumped up a couple of years in terms of adoption of what we thought we'd be having in place. So it's exciting that some of that has happened. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth, you guys, with a couple of questions too. More than one person has asked this, and as long as we're talking specifically in the tickets, about promo tickets for media, how are you distributing promotional tickets for the stations, so the venue, the promoter isn't doing it, and getting away from, you know, hard tickets that they used to get, or how they get them to their winners? I know how I can speak to how we do it at the venue, but I don't know if Kylie or Stephen, you want to jump in on that.
Yeah, so just through trial and error, we found out that if the box office was transferring tickets through our system directly into our partners' promo radio stations, it wasn't sending an alert. And so what we did is send everything into I made a separate account. So I now have kind of my personal side of tickets that I actually get, and then promo tickets for shows. And then I also suggested that our radio partners make an account just for promo tickets from the arena. And so I send the tickets from my special account into their special account, and then it's just easier to keep them in that folder. It's a hard process to explain to them now. It's just mobile because they all want printed tickets and it's so much easier. But we had to kind of hold their hand at the beginning, and setting up a different account has seemed to really help them delineate, like, these are your promo tickets.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So maybe a new email address or whatever.
And that's what we're basically setting up right now for the concert side, as we're starting to come back from renovation. It's just setting up those separate accounts and sending the promo tickets that way. Just trying to navigate through some of it now as, you know, we start setting up like third parties where there's like larger sums of tickets. And we'll have to figure out, you know, how that's going to look, but just setting up the accounts individually.
Yeah, that's what we do. We moved, a lot of this was pre-pandemic for us, and we would actually have meetings. Annette, our marketing manager, we're doing, you know, in-person meetings to educate the promotions people, like how it works, and showing them the My Wild account. And then once they saw, at first everyone's like, oh, we can't do this. We need to bring a will call list. We need to drop our hard tickets off. And it's like, if you just try this, you're going to find out how happy you are that you can just email to people their tickets. Now there's some hiccups there if somebody doesn't claim tickets and that sort of thing, but we've we've found that having them establish like KDWB at, or promo tickets at kdwb.com for a radio station, then we just let them know, hey, your tickets are up, and they can start to manage them from there. And then Angela, that's another data point, right? Like we get back all those winners' names instead of just sending 30 tickets into the abyss.
No,
Correct?
really. I mean, you see that stack of tickets on every radio station land, and they're passing them out. So you're not really getting, not to mention if you have a change, right? So we all know what we learned from COVID is it really helps if we know who has tickets. And so a lot of the hard tickets, we didn't necessarily have a touch point with those fans. So absolutely 100%. I mean, it gives, and back to your point is that you had a conversation with your partners. And I think that's a critical part is, there is a reason you're doing this. This is going to, Kelly, to your point, this is going to help management of tickets. And like managing hard tickets is tough. They only thought about it as a will call, right? Because that's somebody else at the box office managing it, but somebody's managing this. By actually getting into a digital realm, they're actually able to see who did claim the ticket, who did attend, right? So there's lots of data points for the partner as well as you as the client to be able to market back to those fans.
And that's what's really exciting for me, like to say, look at all this data. Like if I came with 3 of my friends to a show, you would only have my data. And now if I choose to forward them, because we're not all coming together, now I've got just a gold mine, of people that were interested enough to come to that show, which I think only helps us as live event marketers to go back to our promoters to say, I don't have just X number of ticket buyers. I have the attendees that came to your show. So now how are we going to remarket to them for a like show? I loved what the TikTok guys were saying about, we got to flip live event marketing on its head a little bit. And I think the data and what's going to drive data is one way that as marketers, venue marketers, we can really do that. So I think we talked a little bit about that. I don't know if you have anything else, Angela or Stephen, Kylie, around data collection specifically.
Well, yeah, I just think that a lot of times, and Kelly, to your point, we talk about data collection, right? But really using the data in a meaningful way. And I think that we've learned a lot from the sports side. You guys have been, Kylie and Stephen, you guys have always kind of parsed your data or segmented your data, like to say season ticket holders versus mini plan holders. You can do the same thing with your concert data. Right? So who do I need to reach out to that would be a VIP? Like what this offer is a VIP offer. Who could I go to? Who would I touch for pre-sales, right? Or who would I touch for last minute purchasers? Because we've been able to collect this data over time and embrace the digital ticketing journey, we're able to pull that data and actually parse it out the same way we see a lot of professional sports teams doing, or our arts groups doing in their subscribers.
Can you speak to that a little bit, Angela? Like as people are listening, I mean, as I'm listening, how do I do that with my Ticketmaster partner?
Yeah, so then to the TN1 marketing tool, you right now have the ability to go in and see who are my early purchasers, who are my late purchasers, who are my travelers, right? So that's kind of a touch point. One of the things we did during COVID as in all the folks that are on this call too, each market was different. Each state had different policies. So we had some that were opened and some that were not. But we actually went in and parsed data for our clients that said, who are our early returners, who are our mid returners, and who are our late returners. So if you had an event that was on during COVID and you were allowed to do a social distance event, or you moved the event outside a more non-traditional event for yourself, you were able to target that list of what we call early adopters and early purchasers that say, hey, I am a returner. I want to come back. I'm ready right now to attend. And you were able to kind of create that message specific to them, but you still wanted to keep some of your late returners engaged. So maybe it was more like, hey, we're doing things here, but we want you to know that we're looking forward to the fall, right? So you were able to kind of parse that data in a way and really create a message that's specific to that fan, because really it is about the right message to the right fan at the right time.
And again, that's next evolution, right? Like that's the exciting stuff that we get to think about. And next year when we're all gathering live at the conference, I have a feeling this is going to be a really hot topic. Let's talk a little bit about that, about educating the fan before they even come to the arena. Somebody's question was, how are you dealing with venues that maybe don't have public Wi-Fi for their guests? And I would say that's a whole different topic. Wi-Fi is obviously going to be vital for this to work. So hopefully we'll get some operations people on, or IT teams, because that is a big component.
Well, and part of it is now that education, really that 48-hour, we see that kind of being that critical. A lot of the A and B testing, we did that 48-hour being a really critical time to reach out and say, if you haven't already downloaded your ticket to your wallet, please do so now. So then it's less of an issue with the Wi-Fi. But if you've at least looked at your ticket through our platform in the last so many days, it actually is in there and doesn't require Wi-Fi. But agreed, it is about reaching out to those fans in that critical 48 to 24-hour time period that says, hey, be ready. Make sure you have your ticket downloaded.
Yeah, and I know we actually have that in our know before you go email, like download your ticket now, put it in your wallet, and charge your phone before you come. Like we actually have that in our know before you go, so people are thinking a little ahead. We do have charging stations in the arena. Somebody asked that too. I mean, if push comes to shove, they go to a resolution window, right? And we try to help them as much as we can.
We're always going to have an opportunity. Like you can't, you've got to be able to pivot and help the fan as they come up. Correct.
Absolutely. We'll get them in the building. And so Kylie and Stephen, talk some more about that. Like, what are some of the other ways you're educating fans? I know, Stephen, you were talking about your whole This Is Your Ticket campaign that you did in Phoenix. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, that one was a couple years back. I was just hammered away, across all platforms where we could, social, email, just letting people know like your phone is literally your ticket. All the signage in the venue was lit up, for all of the Suns games. We had, sales reps contacting, season ticket holders and just letting them know, what the process is going to look like. From a higher level, educating the market, just, talking to local media about some of the changes. We're fortunate enough where we're able to insert, ads in our Suns broadcast. So we did this, segment called our arena features. So as we're talking through some of the changes in the building, whether it be, new suites and like, these corner bars and, some of the other changes, we were able to have some specific to, mobile ticketing, mobile ordering, and some of, the new concessions on there. So just, talking from, top of the funnel education piece, we were able to, create, social segment as well, that we called Transformation Thursdays, where we went through every Thursday, just talking through new changes in the building. And again, hit on, mobile ordering, mobile tickets, contactless payments, that type of good stuff.
Kylie, did you have anything to add on that topic?
Just kind of the mix of channels that we all have at our fingertips, right? Angela mentioned the plan, just having a plan from the beginning up until they walk into the arena and sit in their seat. So just touching them as many times as you can and sending as many messages as you need. It seems like if you only ever have sent one email and it doesn't seem like one email is working, maybe 48 hours ahead, you send an email saying, here's how to access your ticket. Here's how to troubleshoot. Like try logging in again, try re-downloading the app, try doing whatever. If you need 2 emails, do 2 emails. I think it's just looking at every step, reaching people, and then making a plan that works. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that planning and that thinking ahead is key. I know we talked about planning before. I think a big part of that is really connecting with all your internal stakeholders, right? Like asking everybody, what are you hearing? How do we further this message? What am I missing? I just think if we, especially like those frontline, those folks working the gates that are actually doing the scanning, that they hear the most information. And I don't know that we always go to that group of people for their feedback. And I think they're vital. I think the people who are your expediters in front of the concession stand get an earful if your mobile ordering isn't working. So to remember that, like, there's a lot of people that have a lot of great information for us, and we can put all those stakeholders into the plan. And then, Angela, like you said, make them part of your postmortem. Ask them what's working, what didn't work. In terms of educating fans, if I were to walk you out my door here, we have huge, large format signs at all of our gates showing a phone with the QR code, and it says, "This is your ticket. Get out your phone. This is your ticket." And you still wouldn't, well, none of you would be surprised how many people show up like, "Oh, my phone, where is it?" And you're like, how do we not know this by now? But I think that's over communicating, like we're talking about, is okay. Stephen, you touched a little bit. Angela, maybe you can let us know some of the resources. How do we leverage our social? That was one of the questions someone had. Our social platforms as part of the education process. So is that another touch point, and where have you seen some good best practices around that?
And well, I mean, bouncing back and forth between whether it's, the team side or, the venue side itself, we have like our know before you go emails, but, a lot of venues do the same thing on social too. So, that's the education process for each individual show, 24, 48 hours in advance, or even the morning of, as a nice reminder. But, as you move into the mobile landscape, maybe it's putting together, maybe like a week-long campaign with just some of the nice reminders on all of the changes coming to the building. Maybe it's, monthly reminders too, as you're building on the plan, as you're coming back from COVID and having more shows.
So real quick, Kelly, I saw this question come up and I maybe want to pass it to Angela. It just said, what do you do if guests either have a flip phone or if they've lost their phone? We have a solution as far as concession ordering goes, so I can get into later. But Angela, what are you suggesting for box offices of people whose phone has gone missing or something?
Yeah, I mean, once they go to the box office, those can be physically printed for that fan that doesn't have a phone there. There may be a person in their party that has a phone. You could actually text it to that person as long as you can confirm and verify the fan that's there. There's lots of different options, but I don't think you could ever get away from, if somebody is completely lost, their phone is completely dead, there's an opportunity for you to print that ticket, and that still would be an option for the box offices.
Yeah, that's our policy, if you will, is if someone emails and says, you discriminate against people who don't have fancy phones, and we say, of course we don't, we want you to come. And then we just ask them to make note of their Ticketmaster account number and bring their photo ID. So when they do come to the box office, we can prove that it's them. That's kind of a secondary market workaround. It's amazing how many people that might make their living reselling tickets don't have smartphones. So we're finding that is a challenge, which is another reason why we kind of toe the line. Can you, Angela, while I bring up the secondary market, speak a little bit to the Ticketmaster SafeTix technology and how you see that helping us as venues with the secondary market?
Oh, absolutely. So just for SafeTix, we had rolled it out in the NFL, so it had been rolled out pre-COVID. I do believe that it's going to continue to roll out tour, and we see venues adopting it right now. It is a secure digital ticket that is tied to the fan's account, right? So think about it as it's encrypted, it's a changing barcode, so it's rotating, so it's only valid when it's going through the gate. If a fan actually downloads it to their wallet, then you can use the tap and go NFC technology. Really, the goal here is to prevent screenshots or printed ticket, right? And also make sure that you're kind of combating fraud and elimination of counterfeiting of the ticket. So you have to use the platform in order to transfer the ticket. It's only valid as you're walking in. So critically, again, a fan knows that at purchase, right? A lot of the tours and a lot of the venues that have adopted this technology, it is an upfront messaging that is part of their overall event announcement, right? That we utilize SafeTix. Please know this is the only verified way to purchase your tickets. This is safe and secure, right? And there's many benefits to that. And again, it's about that communication plan with the fan as to why we're doing this. We want this to be safe and secure for you. We want, you know, when fans purchase a ticket, they actually want to be able to go to the event. This is not, I hope I can go. It is, I want to go, right? So, and if you have that open dialogue, transparency with them, they understand the process. And we've seen lots of tours that have done that from the artist perspective, have explained why they are adopting this technology, because they want to make sure that the fans are getting able to enjoy the event.
Yeah, it's another big education piece, right? Because that's different. You can't show a screenshot anymore at the gate that people may have been used to doing, and that will no longer be valid or get them in the arena. So another thing that we need to communicate, have on our websites, your Thursday what do you call them, Stephen? Thursday transformation.
It was the Transformation Thursday.
Transformation Thursday. That's just a big thing, and that, because we all run into that all the time of, you know, oh, you can't get a ticket, and you sell them to the scalpers first, and all the stuff that we all hear. Let's move a little bit into other ways that people are going to use mobile, particularly around concessions ordering. And we talked a little bit about the apps and how Kylie, it sounds like you have a co-branded app. We use the NHL app for our in-venue ordering, which I think is going to be a bit of a stumbling block, but how are you overcoming some of that in Utah?
So in Utah, we have gone 100% mobile ordering. We do not allow guests to walk up to a cashier and place an order at a concession stand anymore. So at the beginning of the season, we realized that just even putting the menu behind the concession, like the menu up on the screen behind concessions, was creating a line where people thought they can order there. So we had to take menu down, just put up a QR code, scan here to order from this concession. We made it as easy as possible for people. So the options to order food are either you scan a QR code, you go to vivintarena.com/order, you do it through our app, or we also have kiosks, 16 different kiosks on the concourse, and you can walk up and order your food through a kiosk. So if you forgot your phone, go to a kiosk. If you're sitting in your seat and you want to order, go to vivintarena.com/order. We just made it as easy as we possibly can. And it took a minute for guests to figure it out, but I think guests for the most part like it. They don't have to wait in line. They can sit in their seat until their food's ready and then run and grab it, come back and continue watching the event. So there have been hurdles, but we just made people do it from the beginning. We just cut the cord, no more waiting in line, and it's been great.
Has there been a lot of pushback on that?
What's that?
Pushback from season ticket holders were pushing back at the beginning, but now it seems like they like it. Per caps are up 20 to 30% since the 2019 season. So people are just willing to spend more money when it doesn't seem real. I guess you're on your phone and you just click, put in the cart and done. Mm-hmm. So per caps are up. I wouldn't necessarily say satisfaction from guests are up, but I think that has to do with the full experience of wearing a mask, coming in. We don't allow bags anymore. So there's a few other COVID hurdles that are causing satisfaction, like NPS score to go down, but money spent is going up. So we're happy about that as far as food goes.
Stephen, how about you? And then Angela, I have a question for you around the buy flow process as it relates to this.
Sure. And so, I mean, we're using the Phoenix Suns app right now. I mean, the goal, long term, hopefully moving on that sooner, is an all-encompassing app between Suns Arena and the Mercury, just to make sure that fans are accessing all of the functionality within the building through the app. Just like some of the new functionality we have in the building, we have the mobile ordering, order from your seat and just pick up at the concessionaire. We do have grab and goes now, which have been an absolute wonder, reducing queue times for concessions. As each game has gone on, people have caught on much quicker than the grab and goes, and the lines move very quickly. We've made a few changes in the current setup just to make it feel a little bit more friendly and make it feel more like it's open, because, you know, kind of like the original grab and go kind of felt like it wasn't quite open yet, because people just didn't quite grasp the concept of literally going in there, scanning, you know, a barcode with their phone and then just walking out. But those have been all great functionality pieces that we're hoping to grow on.
And
Perfect.
I real quick will add, sorry, I just thought I'd come in to jog my memory. We do not sell alcohol through the mobile order. So we do have beer stands where you have to walk up. And that has to do with checking IDs, but also some interesting state alcohol laws. So.
Yeah, we have the same. Somebody asked in the chat about mobile ordering and alcohol, and when someone comes to pick up, they do have to show an ID, and then we still crack a beer for them. Like, that's all, that all happens. So Angela, get into a little bit about the buy flow process and how you're seeing things like concession possibilities, merch possibilities, which, you know, Kylie touched on, all going back to what the getting those per caps up.
Right. I mean, we're, you know, as I think you mentioned, because it doesn't seem real, they're not bringing out their credit card, they're doing it on an app. I think the same goes for the Magic credit card when they're purchasing a ticket, right? So we saw this with parking, with little or no marketing behind it. You were able to pre-sell parking and sell out parking, right? Was kind of a no-brainer. So we're seeing more. We saw a lot, because again, we're talking to an audience here that is a lot of different size venues. Some don't have apps, some don't have lots. They don't have a lot of concession stands, right? Some are just temporary events where you can look at pre-selling. We saw some folks pre-selling some concessions, so there were more grab and go. Right there, you do have to follow the rules of alcohol purchases and things like that. You still have to follow that process, but sometimes just pre-ordering a concession like some popcorn or some hot dogs or something, and having these grab and go. So if you can have that as part of the purchase flow, that's less of a purchase that has to take place on site. Right? It's just a verification that I purchased, not I'm having to give you money. And I think we're seeing that with merch too. Is there something unique that you're giving that night, right? Are you also making sure that a fan has an opportunity to get that in advance, right? So maybe it is they go to a certain stand, right? And they're able to just pick that up and not have to stand in a longer line of your merch because they've done that pre-purchase flow. And I think we'll see that continue, right? I think that'll be a lot of things kind of post-COVID, if you have the opportunity to do that. We see early access being already something that had been being used at a lot of amphitheaters and a lot of outdoor places where there was general admission, but there's opportunities, right, to capitalize on, would you like to come in early because you get concessions in this area, or you get special access in this area, but it kind of creates those doors earlier and allows you to get some fans in the building, maybe some activations for sponsors in that time period that's early, 30, 45 minutes before doors. So I think that you have lots of opportunities when fans are purchasing. They want to look at their whole night, right? They want to go ahead and get some things done and handled. They want their parking to be done. Why not go ahead and, I can pre-order something to eat, or I can pre-order getting into the venue early, or I can get my t-shirt. They were doing a cool t-shirt for this particular show, and I'm able to get that in advance.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see how tours kind of take advantage of some of this thing. Like, is it Fish that comes through and they always have a limited edition poster for every show that they do, and people clamor to get in early to get to the concession, to the merch stand to buy that, print more of them and sell them online ahead of time, and we'll get it to you on your exit or whatever it might be. I think that's a huge opportunity that we're going to see kind of explode moving forward. I think one thing too, and Kylie, you maybe touched on this, I'm kind of doing double duty with the chat, but the whole use of QR codes in arena, for us on each of the concession stand lines, we have a skip the line sign with the QR code that people can just launch right into the app and then order their food without having to get into a line. So we're trying to encourage people that way. And that, I think you do this too, Stephen, it goes right to a web-based platform versus driving somebody into the app, where now they have to download the app and feel like they don't want to do that. So instead of losing those folks we push them through on a QR code to the web-based. Someone asked too about, do we force people to pay through the app? I know for us, and Kylie, Stephen, jump in, we allow people at the kiosk to swipe. They can swipe a credit card. You do that as well. You don't have to pay through, we have Apple, we have digital pay, tap or swipe. And then talk about another thing I think as marketers we need to be thinking about is the people who say, I only have 20 bucks and I can't get a beer here. So how are you converting cash to digital?
So we turned into a cashless arena before the shutdown, before quarantine. So we did that through cash to card machines on the arena. And then also at the box office, you can exchange cash for a debit card. That's just how we do it inside the arena. We also have a mobile currency inside our app. Well, I guess like in arena currency inside our app. So if people want to switch their money into Jazz Notes, that can be done as well. But as far as maybe Angela, can you speak to like smaller venues that don't have the ability to hand out debit cards through box office? I wouldn't know. I guess you just have to be ready to go cashless.
Right. Well, that's part of the communication plan. We had lots of conversations with venues, clearly that they were going to be doing this. That's really not the purchase flow, right? But it's also making sure that that information is being sent to those fans in advance of coming, that we are cashless. And I think a little bit of accommodation the first couple of times, right? The first few events that they had that were more social distance, limited seating, that they were sending out that message, the 24 hours out, 48, and then kind of a reinforcement. And then what's on their website, what's in their social. Remember, we're cashless. We are a cashless venue. We're cashless. I think it's that expectation. And to be able to understand that there may be, and a lot of venues that we worked with did actually accept cash that night, but there was a reinforcement that it was only one place, right? There was one place they could go, that you had that conversation with that fan, that reminder, we are moving to a cashless. So I think, again, it has to do with fans want to know what to expect. So make sure that you're communicating that. And I think that it is a learning process like it is to download your ticket. The same goes for concessions and what your expectations are.
It's communication overload. It really is. What someone asked, and we haven't touched on it yet, but we have a lot of our friends that are listening that are in the group sales world. Kylie, Stephen, Angela, any thoughts on how your teams are using digital tickets as it relates to their group sales?
For us, through Arctics, and they've been using Arctics. And that's how they distribute.
Yep, we're the same. We have Arctics accounts, and it's been an education process to help group leaders know how to forward that. Again, a huge benefit to us is the venue to get all that data. So we let a few people grandfather in on hard tickets, but now with this year of not having events, we'll just go fully digital with all of our people. And it's just kind of that people figure it out. Kylie, I'm laughing because you sound like me, with like, well, we're just doing it. Like this is how we do it. And I used to say, remember when we used to be fun, like tell people what they could do when they get here. And now we're like, oh yeah, you can't do that either. Oh no.
And I think from it, even, thinking outside just a traditional, you also have the opportunity to, have groups do codes, discrete links. There's opportunities to where if the group manager doesn't necessarily want to manage the tickets, there's other opportunities for them to send out, again, like I said, discrete links or password protected events where you're still getting that data about the individual, and you're still able to track back to a certain code or a certain link, so that there's any kind of commission based or there's something around your group sales, you can do that as well. So I think you have lots of different options now with technology. You just need to find out what working with your partners and with your group sales, what seems to be the best case. And it doesn't have to be the same way for every group that you work with.
Fully agree. So we're kind of coming up already, you guys, against our time. As we had our practice session last week, and as we're talking today, is there anything that we should impart your wisdom to this group before we wrap up our time? Anything we maybe didn't touch on that should be important that we do?
I think the next step to all of this is merch. You talked about it a little bit, but I just kind of hope that that's something that in a year from now, people are starting to do, and we're kind of figuring out how to work with tours to do concert merch in a similar way. So hopefully going from here, we can get a little better with the whole mobile move.
Yeah, the idea of a crammed concert concourse with everybody trying to get to the merch line just seems like that can't be a thing that we're going to do again. So that'll be an interesting evolution. Angela, how about you?
Yeah, I just think it's about, we're at a, I believe that we're at a point where people, again, I've said it, there's an expectation that live events are changing. So we have an opportunity now to take advantage of that and really utilize technology in a way that we haven't thought of before. I think it's been great that we've had this panel, but I learned the most from clients and from talking to other venues. Really keep it an open mind. There are things you can learn from a sports team, and there's things you can learn from an arts, and there's things you can learn from a GA festival, right? On when we start talking about customer service is customer service, right? And that is about education. That's about education of the fans, and that's about education of your staff. So having a plan, understanding that we have an opportunity to change things, I think is exciting as we look into 2021 and 2022.
Stephen, anything to add?
Yeah, just that, we get locked in on so much work all the time, but it's always nice to sometimes take a step back and put yourself through the customer journey, right? The entire process that each fan has to go through. And if you notice any problems or hurdles, like if you're having a problem or hurdle with it, and like we deal with this stuff all the time, then imagine how much of a bigger problem that is for our fans who are trying to accomplish something. So, identify those problems and come up with solutions for our fans.
That's a really good tip. Buy a ticket once in a while, right? Like go through the process and experience what fans are experiencing, so that when something is not making sense, that's either tied back to your own arena, how you laid it out, or how do you work with your Ticketmaster partners to make it better for the fans. I think we've all been a little spoiled in how we access tickets to events. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you to Kylie. Go Jazz. Good luck tonight. Thank you to Stephen for making time. You both of you in the middle of a playoff run. Go Suns. And then next week I will be Switzerland. I won't. If there's a round 3 for both of you, I wish you both well. Angela, thank you for bringing your expertise. Thank you to Ticketmaster for being a sponsor today. Really appreciated your insight. I'm pretty sure we're all on LinkedIn. If people have additional questions and want to reach out directly through that platform, we welcome that. And then look forward to our next time together at 3, and we'll see you all in person, hopefully next June.
Thank you, Kelly. Great job.
Everyone.